Yep. Was that the original?
Well, I mean, the first one is references. He started it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now it's only like maybe but, you know, they still make good ice cream. So it's a big company. I think it's pretty good.
It must have killed
So Ben and Jerry's works for them still.
Okay.
You know,
They
what
do
I'm doing
more
right now with
promotions. It's nice.
Yeah. They probably got big enough that they.
That, I don't know, so it isn't hooking to the. I'll have to ask Eli about that. All right. So how are you guys today? Most of you I saw just 5-10 minutes ago, but what is my password?
Password.
Yeah.
Hopefully it still works
Hopefully
after
it's
Eli
not.
changed it.
So I thought we're going to look at, let's go to 226 and assignments. But before I do assignments, I might spend just a minute on one of the topics. So the one I was going to do today is snapshots and maintenance plans. They're the actual ones due today. They're not going to take very long, and but we'll look at them here in a moment. Snapshots really are you're just taking a picture of a database at a moment in time. And maintenance plans are kind of the beginning of being able to set up automation.
What's the difference between a snapshot and a backup?
Snapshot is literally a moment in time. I guess you could do a backup, but you can look at it live, whereas a backup, you'd have to restore.
Okay.
We'll talk about them a little bit in a moment more. They're kind of an odd sort of thing. You can actually restore a database from a snapshot, but you will lose everything that was post that snapshot. So I'm going to go to announcements. And is anybody going to do, where is my announcement?
You need to refresh.
Well, maybe, but I mean, I just did it. Now let's refresh, but I just logged in. It shouldn't. You know, I probably put it in the other class. No, here they come. SQL Server certifications. Weird. Okay. Was anybody going to do that? You were going to do NoSQL. Was anybody for a presentation going to do the SQL Server certifications?
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Is that about getting a cert for an individual?
Yes.
Okay, so there's still a few of us that need to be assigned to a group.
Right. Does anybody want to do that? Because I will do it if you guys don't want it. But if somebody's going to do that.
Yeah.
So you guys going to do that one?
We each want to do.
What do you want to do? If you go to the presentations, there's lots of topics there.
Yeah.
So assignments, presentations.
Is there like a roster of things that are taken already?
So there's not a lot that's taken. There's big data is taken. There's a fairly large group, given that we're a small class, doing in-memory databases. I forget the exact database.
Redis.
Okay. And you want it NoSQL, right?
Yeah, and Sam.
And Stanford. You two had NoSQL. So I think that's it. It's taken.
You want to do that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll go back to the presentation, the assignments. So, and you're not limited to these topics, but if you want to.
Databases and web services.
Okay. Like, yeah. That sounds good. One of those.
I'll do cloud out.
Yeah, sure. What cloud database?
Okay, that sounds good. So then I'll do one of the things that I said, let me make this bigger. I said that I would do anything that isn't covered. Right? So I'm going to look today just briefly at the SQL Server certification exams because we were talking about it last time and there was some interest in it. Okay, I feel discombobulated, so hopefully this will clear up in a moment.
Quick thing about the exams. Every once in a while, the Seattle Public Library will sponsor you to take exams for free. So they're usually like $400. I've taken the C# one there. It's like super easy. Just register online and show up. Don't pay that.
Yeah, I'd heard that a lot of the networking people went there too because they are expensive.
They just do it from time to time, yeah. And it's not just, it's all the MTA ones and then the other ones that are like Office.
Why does it take so long for these to show up?
One of those.
The C#
Can you
one
register
is-
online or you need to?
Yeah, register online. I'll just check the calendar on the Seattle Public Library's website and just see when they offer it.
And then you have to go and there and be proctored, right? Do that. You go to the library to take the test.
You just go to the library, show their ID, and they have like a login code for yeah.
I was looking at these exams and they look like they cost about 165 a piece.
I have no idea why, because I took it and it's like they're not that well put together.
Some of them are. So like I don't think the C# is.
That's the line. So
Yeah, some of the database ones, they're a little bit deceptive though sometimes because they don't always, it's not just about the database. Sometimes they'll give you like a really complicated scenario, and then they'll give you 4 solutions, and all of the solutions are correct, but one is optimal. So it's not always easy on that. The networking exams, I think, have a fairly good rep. The programming ones, I'm not sure. The database ones, as I said, they're not necessarily going to get you a job. Sometimes when you have a job, they'll make you do the certification. And if you're going into a hiring position where your skills are somewhat equivalent to somebody else's, but you have the certification might weigh on your side. But in database, and this is a real pain if you're looking for your first jobs, experience trumps everything. So, but the places, and nobody's doing the job thing, so I guess I'll have to research that. But a lot of the jobs, the beginning jobs, are with nonprofits, smaller databases, or working on a team that's working on a database. So these are the exams, and there's a link in the announcements, although it took me a while to find it in there, for SQL 2016. And this is the MTA. There's different levels of them, but these are the MTA certificate for new certificate things. So these are the kind of the lower level ones. These are sort of like, do you know your basics?
Do you know how to create tables, do select queries?
Right. Well, I'm going to do like a quick. So there's a course there. These courses cost like $6,000. Just to let you know.
Whoa.
One person?
Yes.
Wow.
Would it like 5-day long or?
Well, so a lot of them are online. But they're
$6,000
yeah.
online.
Sometimes you can go to a place where they will offer it as a course, but it's still $5,000-6,000
So a year's tuition at this school, basically.
basically for a week.
Wow.
I mean, if they do it actually in a physical place, it's usually 4 to 5 days. I've done them, but they're 8 hours a day.
I've taken for other things, that kind of thing. But
Yeah, I've done them before. Sometimes they give them to us.
do you ever hear of
for
something called Focus, a database?
Yeah, I have actually. I'm going to look at the exam. You don't have to do the courses. You can get books they have books that are designed to tutor you for the courses, and they have other things that you can kind of do it on your own, do your own study. The courses are sort of like a crash test prep thing. Actually, it's not uncommon for an IT course to cost $5,000-6,000 for a person. In fact, it's really common, which is why we don't get any training. Yeah.
I actually just registered for, they're doing one on 7/19, 2 times that day for any of the MTA exams.
Are they doing them for free, or are they
Now,
upward?
when is this?
The 19th and the 24th.
Of this month?
Who's doing it?
I just registered
But at Microsoft?
at the Seattle Public Library.
Oh, the library. So they're doing a course as well as the exam?
Just the exam,
Oh, just the exam. Okay.
for whatever you want for MTA.
Yeah, so you can do these exams. I mean, to do them for free is nice because, as you can see, it's $165. What I'm looking for is the skills measured. And what I'm going to do is this is the Transact SQL one. So this one says identify proper select query structure, write specific queries to satisfy business requirements from multiple queries using set operators, distinguish between union and union all. Behavior, identify the query that would return expected results on provided table structure and or data. We did most of that. I'm just kind of mapping what things we've done. I'm not sure, I didn't emphasize union all versus union. And off the top of my head, I forget what behavior is different between union all and union. I'll have to look. Does anybody know off the top
Could
of
it be
their
a
head?
combination of the left and the right, or no?
Well, so union is anyway.
Usually you have matched
Union
fields.
basically joins all matching fields. I wonder if union all allows unmatching fields. No? Oh, it does? Or?
The
Yeah.
union all command is equal to the union command except the union all selects all values. The difference between union and union all is that union all will not eliminate duplicate rows. Instead, it just pulls all rows from all tables.
Oh, so the union removes duplicates. Okay, that's good to know.
Seems like this exam doesn't really have anything that wasn't covered in 2.2.
Yeah, so it has inner join, right, left, outer joins, cross joins, multiple join operators. We've done all of that. Aggregate, functions in aggregate, we did most of that. Although I'm not sure what they mean by sargeability. There's a couple of things that we didn't focus on. Identify the impact of function usage to query performance. You know, we did do a little bit on query performance and looked at the thing, and that might be all that they're looking at, actually, is the statistics and diagnostics down below. Sargeability, anybody know what that word? I don't even know.
Never heard of it.
Something to do with your sergeant?
I don't think so. Let's look at.
A relational database is a condition or predicate in a query is said to be sargeable if the DBMS engine can take advantage of an index to speed up the execution of the query.
Oh, so it's if it can use an index. I would never have guessed that. You're good at quick at looking things up. So that's a little. So we did a little bit of that where we forced an index and we looked at what the indexes were things. So I did think that's mostly in that thing. Insert, update, and delete statements. We didn't do the output statement, but I would have to look at that to say what that is. So, but we did 80 to 90% of this. You might want to look into a couple of the little features of that. That's part of the exam. This is then there's query data with advanced SQL, and this one, remember, I didn't know how to do the cross apply, so we would need to figure out the cross apply because they're asking about that. The outer apply and apply, so we'd have to figure those out. We did do table expressions, right? And I didn't show you, but I have done pivot there's a pivot command that basically creates a pivot. A pivot. What pivot does is it basically turns columns into rows and rows into columns, kinds of things. It kind of flips the table on its side. These are not hard to do, and I could show you at some point. So this one, temporal data and non-relational data. Query historic data by using temporal tables, which means temporary tables, right? And then query and output JSON, which I haven't done. That's fairly new. That's in 2016. I haven't played with that. I have done, we did a tiny bit of the XML data. So there's a little bit that you would need to learn here, particularly perhaps how it outputs JSON. I might look into that because I'm curious about that.
JSON is JavaScript, right?
It's JavaScript, yeah. It's just that JSON has become more common for transporting data than XML, where it used to be always XML, because it's lighter weight.
Is it also because of other NoSQL databases like Mongo are all JSON-based?
Yeah, they're JSON-based. And also, typically, when you're taking it to a web page, the tools, particularly the framework, the JavaScript framework tools, expect the data in a JSON format. And so it's the new way to integrate things.
Does that mean that XML is being phased out?
Not really. It's all over the place. I mean, all document structures are XML. If you ever look at iTunes, the underlying database is XML. I mean, it's everywhere. In Android, the form factors, when you create the form, it's all XML. Windows forms are XML. So it's everywhere. It's just not in data transfer as much. Does that make sense? And then data types and nulls. That's basically just choosing your data types and knowing when to allow and when not to use nulls. I didn't show you the coalesce function, but it's pretty easy to pick up. And it's in my notes. I have used it before in class. So the statement I would say is that this test, exam 7761, querying data with Transact SQL, you probably could pass it cold if you did good in the 222, and with a little study, you could probably do better than just pass it. But you might want to study a few of the things that it says there. So that's one exam. Again, these exams for 165. If it's free, it's probably worth it. If it's not free, I'm not sure. It depends. If you're going to a position where you think that it would give you an edge in the interview, then it might be worth doing for that too. This is developing SQL databases. This is exam 762. It's also $165. I just want to do, so design and implement a relational database schema. And that's something we've done. I mean, basically design your tables. What are the columns? What are the data types for the columns? What are the relationships between the tables? I mean, it's basically design a relational database. Design and implement indexes, which we've done a little bit of. Design and implement views, which we did some this morning. Implement column store indexes, which we haven't done. You can put indexes on. Well, say column store indexes. Are those the kind of indexes that we did? I don't know. I'd have to look up the column store index to be sure about that we did the same. I think they're a little bit different than the indexes we did. So data integrity with constraints. That's basically your key constraints: primary key, foreign key, but also defaults. And constraints. You can do a check constraint, like you could say for a grade value that it has to be between 0 and 4.
Could triggers be a part of that?
Triggers could be, although it has that down here, create triggers and user-defined functions. Constraints are actually on the fields. Triggers kind of are meta objects that are triggered by certain events. We did triggers and user-defined functions, and we did stored procedures. That being said, they might ask questions, but we didn't do everything in a stored procedure. We did if statements, but we didn't do loops. You know, there are things like that. They have while loops. This part we haven't done as much of. Transactions we did start and end of transaction. Explicit and implicit. Save points within transactions. We did a tiny bit of that. We didn't do much with isolation levels. Read uncommitted, read committed, repeatable, read serializable. You might need to, partially because our databases are basically the way we've got them set up, they're one person only. And these are all issues of concurrency when you have lots of people doing it. So read uncommitted means that you can read whatever is there, whether it's been committed to the database or not. So you can almost read things in process. Generally, that doesn't happen very often. Read committed means you can only read those records that have actually been written to the database and confirmed. Repeatable read means that it should, if you do the same query 3 seconds, 10 seconds from now, you should have exactly the same data. It's kind of like committed in that it means that the data is solid. It's possible to read things that are in process, and so the next time you read it, it may be different. Generally, you don't want to do that. Isolation levels are, like if you're doing an update, it actually kind of relates to locking too. Do you lock the table? Do you lock just the record? Do you lock the page? You can lock at the page level. A lot of these concurrency things we haven't covered, so if you wanted to do this test, you might have to review and play with that. Memory optimized tables and native stored procedures. I haven't done that. I think a native stored procedure, I think that's a stored procedure in like C#. And then optimizing statistics, analyze and troubleshoot query plans, manage performance for database instances, and monitor and trace. We actually, in this class, we did a little bit of analyze and troubleshoot query plans, just a little bit. We are going, basically, they kind of want you to look at the performance. There's some performance monitors and stuff that we will be looking at. We're not going to do it with Azure, though. And we will also do some monitoring SQL things, but again, not with Azure.
AWS?
No, we're not doing either of those. I would not mind doing some Azure, but it's with Azure and AWS, more so with AWS, it's really an issue of cost, and so you can get a free account. You have to have a Microsoft account. You get a free account as a student. That's good for about a year. If you build it up, you build it up, and then at the end of the year, you have to close it all down, basically, or they just take it away. So it's only for learning purposes unless you pay. They probably give you an option to pay at the end if you want to keep it. Azure and AWS are both initially cheap but can become expensive rapidly. I mean, they both cost pennies as long as nobody's visiting your sites and as long as you're only using a few resources, but they can rapidly scale up. With Azure, it's not so bad because as a student account, if you go up above your budget, what they've allotted you, they just cut you off. And you can't go above it. AWS is a little more scary in that if you go above your allotted amount, they charge you. And you can't sign up for an AWS if without a credit card. So. Azure usually wants a credit card too, though I think in the new student version, they said you can sign up without a credit card. So the thing is, these two tests I think you could do, this one might take a little study particularly. They both will take a little study, but these two tests are doable for you after these courses. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of these. I don't think there's much here that's, this is more networking based if I recall. Encryption, data access, and permissions. We will do some with permissions. But again, they're particularly interested in Azure for a lot of this. So one of the things that might be worth doing if you wanted to do these tests is to get an Azure account. It's actually pretty easy to put a SQL database up there. I had one up there. I didn't. My account just went away. Could probably get another one.
Visual Studio have pretty good integration with Azure.
Yeah, everything Microsoft does now has pretty good integration with Azure. Backup and restore, we have done, right? We're going to do a consistency check today. We will monitor some things. I can show you how to do the monitoring. So there's stuff there that we will have done. We will do log shipping. I don't know that we don't have a way to set up clustering, so I haven't been able to do that. And so the same with the failover. But actually, this test, after this class, this is the 764 administering the SQL database infrastructure. I'd say about 2/3 of that we'll have had some contact with. So you might be able to do that exam. And then the last one is developing SQL data models. No, that's not right. Yeah, a SQL data warehouse. We will do a little of that in the morning class. I don't know if I want to go through all of this stuff there. Provisioning, I'm not entirely sure what that means, so let's look at it. Azure. I think it's all managing that database in Azure, so we haven't done that. So these are the MTA, these are the lower level, and then the ones that go up above that are the MCA, MCSA. And I don't know if we want to look at those, but these are a higher level. Are they a higher price too? Are they all 160? Still 165. These are basically the same kinds of tests as the earlier ones. They're just harder. The same basic subject areas, but they're a little harder. So do you guys have questions on the exams? All right. So I would basically say that if you can get them, like the library would be the way to do them if you can, just to see if you can take them. And I would start with the MTA. And if you do really well at that and you want to study a little more, you can try the higher. I will say that the employers probably will be more impressed if you get your MCSA than if you get your MTAs. But that being said, as I said, I don't think, so these are solutions associate. Is there a level beyond that? There's MCSE. Certified Solutions Expert. I think what they do with these exams is it's a huge funding for them. I mean, they get a lot of money from it. I don't think it actually affects Microsoft's bottom line much, but they have lots of contractors and things that work with them that do get a lot of money from these. Microsoft actually makes most of its money from servers.
SharePoint, stuff like that.
SharePoint is a big one. SQL Server is a big product. Office, not so much in terms of their bottom line.
I thought that was like their main cash cow.
Many years ago, but these days it's not so much. They've made it a lot cheaper. In fact, it's free on anything except Windows devices.
Oh, you mean like it's on Android? And
On Android and on iOS and all of that, it's free.
much
And
more fun to touch.
it's actually not. I mean, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, but typing like this is more, with your thumbs is more as efficient as typing with all 10 fingers.
Yeah, but I can do 10 fingers on my iPad. All right, so let's go back to. We'll do the actual things for today. I know that wasn't so much as a report as just a tour of the.
That was interesting.
The thing is, we have covered stuff. We have focused mostly on the development side, so on the SQL and the development. Just honestly, it's because that's what I know best. It interests me more too. There's another side of all of this, which is more in Ed's part of the world, which is the networking, the configuring servers, the setting clustering servers, setting up the the communications, the network communications between everything. That's a whole other side of all of this, and that's the part I'm probably least knowledgeable of. So, all right, we'll do database snapshots.
Does that use the workbench?
It uses the management studio.
Okay.
Yeah, workbench is
Or
MySQL.
MySQL.
Yeah. It's one of the front ends for MySQL. There's actually lots of them. My PHP admin and all sorts of things. PHP my admin, I think. Okay, so this is actually pretty easy, and I'll show you a couple of ways to do it, I think. I may have to review my blog just because I'm tired. So let's notice there's a folder here called Database Snapshots. And there isn't anything in it, I don't believe. So I am going to I'm going to do it graphically first. I'm going to right click, go to tasks. And I don't know, register, deploy, I wonder if I have to do this. All right, so I'm not seeing database snapshot there. So what happens if I right click on this? No, reports. I may have to do it in SQL. Because I don't see. Oh. All right, so I think we have to do it in. So I'm going to, I think I want to use master. I'm going to create database, community, assist, snapshot, that's a long name.
CA snapshot?
What?
CA snapshot?
You could do CA snapshot if you prefer. And then I have to say on file, equal, and what I'm going to do is, again, sort of cheat and go to my file manager, go to C, go to program files, SQL Server, I have this one as 24/6, MSQL data, and capture that path. And then I need to do community. I wonder if it needs the same name. Tell you what. Let me look at the syntax for this before I lead us too far astray. I looked a little bit, but oh, just on, not file. Okay. And then what did I put as an extension? Just did DI, which is database snapshot. And just make sure that that's correct. Yep. So that should work if I'm so on without the equal sign, right? No. What does it want? Oh, name equal. And then I close that parentheses at the end. Can't break that string. I could do this, and I can do that, I guess, but still doesn't quite fit. Now, what does it not like? Is it a comma at the end of that?
What does the DS stand for?
It's just database snapshot. Yeah. Oh, as. That's what is missing. No, it doesn't like as because I put the comma there. All right. There we go. So that's the syntax. Create a database community assist snapshot on, and then you say name equals, and you give the file path, and then you end it with the name of the file that you're going to put there as snapshot of community assist. So I'm going to run that, and if we're lucky, file name is required. Is it file name instead of name?
I think yeah, but TV system. Oh, you have it. Oh, yeah, you have the name of the.
Oh, Automart and then file name.
Yeah.
I see.
So you need the name.
Yeah, name equals community assist. And then after that, comma, file name equals, and I'll break that Now it seems happy. Yes, it says it completed successfully. So I have create database community assist snapshot on. And actually the name of these and what I should have done for this is probably put a date and time on it. The naming convention is usually to give it a date or time.
Still nothing there. Did you look at it?
Yeah.
And what is this?
Is it DB?
Yeah, DS.
Dot DS? Oh, no, it didn't.
Oh, no, this, yeah.
There was some difference.
They'll just.
Operating system, so it's saying that the path is wrong. So click in the copy it.
Oh,
Here's the link.
Comma after.
Oh, I know.
I didn't
Then
know
that's
that.
why that's happening. You mean the slash with the name of the file.
Yeah, looks like it's gonna work now.
Which is hard to see on mine because it's off screen. So I did community assist snapshot DS. So a couple of things about snapshots. So if I refresh up here and I go to database snapshots, there's a community assist snapshot there. When I open that, it has all the tables, right, that the other one did. And if I were to query it, it will seem as if, so let's just select star from person. So let's use the snapshot.
Find that again.
So it's up in snapshots, database snapshots. You have to refresh.
Okay.
So I'm going to use community assist snapshot. And I'm going to just do select star from people, from person. Okay, and it will look as if we, it has all the data of the original, like we made a copy of all the data. But we actually haven't, and I don't know if we can see this in the data files. Community assists, well, they say that they're the same size. It's not really.
We can check the rows. The row count.
How would you check the row?
Well, to do use community assist and then do the same selection.
It would still be the same. The thing that I was thinking that I could show is that actually the community assist snapshot has 0 data in it. All it is a series of pointers to the data. It's basically a filter on the underlying table. And they do that so that you don't have to, if you have a terabyte database and you make a snapshot, you don't have to copy a terabyte of data. So it only writes data to the community assist snapshot when you change it in the underlying table. So, and I can't do anything. You can't, the snapshot is static. You can't change it. You can't go in and do an update.
So it's kind of like a virtual data.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to reiterate what you said and see if I got this. You said if you don't change community access and you do the snapshot, you're really running, and when you select, you're really running the original community access.
Right, it's actually going from community assist snapshot and it's just running that.
But when you change community access.
So when I go to change community assist, that's not what I wanted. So let's go down, let's use community assist. And I'm gonna, in person, I'm going to update person. And I'm going to set person first name equals Jason, where person key equals 1. So I'm going to, I'll run that first, and then I'll do that. And then I'll do select star from person, and so it's now Jason. But if I go to use community assist and run it, it's still J. So what happens is, I don't know how to draw this as a picture. But what happens is that all the data is in the original database, right? So it's all the data is here. The snapshot initially has no data, it just points back here, it's just a filter on it. But as you change a record, it copies the original version to the snapshot, and the new version is put into the original. So this is always going to reflect the data at that moment in time. If data is changed so that it's different than it was at that moment in time, it writes the original form of the data to the snapshot.
It's like version control like GitHub or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah. So what this does is it keeps the original database state at the instant you took it. So they are kind of useful for that, right? They're useful in the sense that you can compare. You can take 2 or 3 of these. That's why they say they usually date them. And you can compare the state of the database at different periods of time. You could also do it, because you can restore from it, you can do a quick snapshot just before you do something horribly dangerous, because you can recover from the snapshot.
If you remove the file extension
Yeah.
to a different hard drive, it would be pointing to nothing, or?
You know, I don't know. I'm not sure if a snapshot can be on a different drive. Maybe it can be. I don't
So
know.
when did you say you were in charge of kind of regularly keeping a database backed up? Would it be more preferable to just take a snapshot
I
every
think the
night?
backup is
backup
actually
is-
more flexible. Partially because, as I said, I'm not sure the snapshot can be on another disk.
Oh, right, it's gonna, because
Yeah.
it has to,
It's twinned here. And in fact, you cannot delete community assist because it has a dependency now. You had a question.
Is there a function that you can use such that it would show just the record change to the snapshot of the original?
You know, I'm not sure of one. The book doesn't have one. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We could look real quick.
yeah, I guess. Could you just run it? Could you run it? Could you join? No, I guess you couldn't do that.
I don't think you can join the two.
Yeah, probably.
So this is the original form. This one record is physically copied to the file for community as a snapshot. Nothing else is right now. Everything else is just reflecting the original. But every change that you make, the change goes to the active database and the original goes to the snapshot, so that it will store the copies of anything that have changed in order to maintain that moment of time snapshot. And it will do it for as long as the snapshot exists. So ultimately, if it's a really busy database, the snapshot could end up as big as the database.
I just think, but it wouldn't make sense to revert back to the snapshot, or is that easy to do?
So the only time I could think, I mean, one of the things you could do with the snapshot is you could, as I said, take one just before you do something dangerous because you can restore from the snapshot. Yeah. So, and it might actually be easier to do that on the moment to do it from the backups.
What do you do? Do you fully qualify the database the table that you're copying from?
What do you mean?
Like have a database.dbo?
Well, you actually can't. So the way you would have to do that, let's go back to the blog, is whereas I have a thing where it's restore. I want to see the restore thing here. Restore database. This is AutoMark from database snapshot.
Okay.
It's not table by table. It's the whole database.
So do you have to make data with a snapshot every time that you want? It's just overwriting the file.
I think no. So typically you would name them differently.
Okay, so
Right. So typically you might have a lot of different snapshots. One of the uses of snapshots, other than just as an emergency backup, is again, if you want for business reasons to compare the state of the database of two, like you might take one at the start of the year, one at the end of a quarter, one at this, so you might take quarterly snapshots and then compare the data across the snapshots. So there could be business reasons to take snapshots. There might be some unique state in the snapshot. One of the things, because the snapshot is offline, you could use it for different kinds of data analytics, right, without messing with the live database, which might be really busy. So that's another reason to take a snapshot, is to have a copy of the database at a particular time that you can do analysis off of. I don't think, it may be that there is no there is no way to do a snapshot graphically. That's what I'm wondering. It may have to be done with SQL. Should we restore Jason back to J? We could try a quick restore from, see if that line works.
So we have to use.
So it'd be restore database community assist.
No, there is no way to graphically do it.
You just looked it up. And from, would be nice to have more than a 30-second memory. From database snapshot. I'm going to break the line. And was it equal or just, yeah, equal community assist snapshot. And single quotes. Let's try that restore. It's always a little dangerous, but
You go first.
restore cannot process because it's in use.
Oh, use master.
Right, so I need to use master, which may or may not be enough. Says it's completed successfully. So let's do, I'm going to use community assist, and I'm going to select start from person, and notice it's J again. We went back to the original form. So snapshots are a pretty brief little topic, but they're a useful thing. And I think your assignment is just to make a one for Metro. I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll do the next thing. So let's look. I mean, we could look at the. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at the assignment. So. You don't have to explain. So yeah, just make a snapshot and then make a couple of changes to the underlined one. So to add an employee, update an employee. You don't have to do a restore. I don't know how to get that all on screen. I'll give you a few moments. I'll be right back to you first.
How's it going?
File metro all. Oh, we're in space and metro. Oh, let's see. Okay. Are you resetting things up?
Yeah.
Just 3 times the engine.
Okay.
Using the wrong version. Like the standard, that's the enterprise. Because the standard doesn't have snapshot.
That's right.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of these, this is the only class I teach that requires enterprise.
Can you not create snapshots in anything other than enterprise?
There are a couple of things that, a lot of these tools are only available in enterprise, yeah.
What is the program?
So you're downloading enterprise now, or what?
Well, it's there and now it's just upgrading.
Oh, just upgrade it, yeah.
Just rewatch the.
I'll post this code too, which is basically all there is to it, except to change the names. In fact, I might do that right now. Um, So I just put up the code we did in class. Although I don't know why with Chrome it does that.
I mean, by it spills over.
It spills over the window. I did it as pre, so it's not breaking things, I know, but other browsers will break it. I should probably use, there's a thing called a code beautifier. If you pass it your code, it'll turn it all into neat HTML and make it look nice on the screen. Do you want a separate video for the next part, or just?
The next part being.
We're going to do management. And it's going to have a long dead spot in the middle.
So if you don't.
Yeah.
If it's not too much trouble on your end to create this.